Hello! This is a contest. Fantasy Footy show where we have three hats between us. I'm Jesse, coach of Team Channel. I'm with K-Man. He's a dual hat winner, coach of the mighty Sack Lunch. You can follow us on Foes if you'd like to follow along. Well, I mean, what follow along with what? It's over. It's over now. If you didn't add us on Foes, it's done. But you can add us for next season. We're your hosts. We like Fantasy Footy. You can follow K-Man on Twitter at K-Man_TC Fantasy, and you can follow me on Twitter at Contest Fantasy. My teeth just squeaked. I'm sorry if that came through the mic. How are you, mate?
I'm good. You've just hit my first I've got a bit to talk about here before we even get into the good stuff. So you just said it. We got nothing to talk about. I always find this the day after the fantasy season. It's like a cyclone passes. Like we've been going since Christmas. Let's face it. We were doing research and pods and pre-show, and then all of a sudden it's just this cyclone disappears, and it's like that Seinfeld episode where George gets stuck in hospital and he can't walk, and the others go, "All right, let's go get some coffee." Like this, it's like it's nothing. All of this just to wake up and go, "All right, what do I do now?"
What do we do now? Like,
exactly.
What do we do with our lives? This is a whole other job.
We have a break. Speaking of other job, we've talked about how it is a full-time job. Let's face it, to do well.
Yeah.
The fight for number one.
Oh.
The fight for number one. Did you keep... I know you were stressed, and you're going to talk about your relaxing weekend away, which I'm sure was the most stressful weekend your family's ever experienced. But what was it? 3 points? 3 points.
There's a couple of sad stories at the top of the comp, isn't there? Because, like, obviously, Wagmantle. Congrats to Wagmantle. Claps for Wagmantle. Took it out.
Well done.
Insane finish. 51,702 points. The powerhouse needed a kick from Jarman Impey.
Just one more kick.
One more kick.
Come on.
I was listening to the Weekend Wash-Ups final. Shout out to those guys. I've been loving their pod this season. The Weekend Wash-Up this morning, and they were saying, like Impey was tackled, and then the ball, it looked like it came off his foot, accidentally. And it was like, oh, that's the kick. But then it didn't tick over. And then they did the replay. Because I didn't watch this. I'd turned it off by this point. Apparently they did the replay and it came off the knee or the thigh or something. And it was like, if it was just a few inches lower, champion data would have gone, yep.
Would that have been a tie then?
It would have been a tie. Because then he was cut. He left the field. And then what happens? Do they both get a tundra?
Wow. Isn't that funny? Now, I do have one more thing I want to share, if that's okay, before I
go for it.
I pass it over to hear about your weekend. I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
You don't know about this. And I tried to get away with it, but I think it was too late. So Thursday night, I edited the show, right?
Yeah.
And I've never done a Thursday night edit before. I normally do the show we're doing now.
Yeah.
So wasn't long before the game. I did my edit and I went into autopilot and totally forgot about the period where we checked the teams. So for those early bird people who listened to the pod and watched the YouTube, they got us just chatting away. And I woke up in the morning and went, wait a minute. I had to edit that out. So
that explains something.
I'm at work feverishly trying to get this thing done before I go on a school trip.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is hilarious. Because I remember, because I'm sure we both do this. Like when on the other's editing night, like you check in, like make sure everything's all kosher or whatever. And I know, and it was there, and it was like, oh, we had 50 views or whatever, and I was like, great. And then I woke up in the morning,
man,
and it was like down to 11, and I was like, oh. So that explains it. Removed it.
I'm so sorry, classic. Everyone. But for those early birds, you got an insight. into how we
Got-
pass the time.
Probably a really painful insight. They're probably like, what is this? Where is the quality control?
What is
Oh,
this? Anyway, let's hear about
Yeah.
it. Let's your
well.
relaxing weekend away.
Well, I've got one more. Sorry, I said there were a couple of things at the pointy end. Do you know how much 101 missed out on 100 by?
Oh, how much?
1 point. They were 1 point behind 100.
I saw Warney's
So it
tweet
is-
that said, "Does anyone know this guy?"
Oh, it is the year of pain. It's been the year of pain.
Remained silent.
Yeah. Anyway, well, look, we thank you for editing on the Thursday night. I asked you to do that because we went away. It was my dad's birthday on the weekend. It was a bit of a big one, so we had the family. We all went away together, had a couple nights, bit of a party. Super relaxing down at Byron Bay. It was great. Well, it would have been relaxing if it wasn't for me. You know, you probably wouldn't expect that I would be texting you constantly on a weekend away with my family for my father's birthday. But I couldn't, and I warned my wife. I was like, I'm really sorry. I'm going to be preoccupied this weekend. And I just, I couldn't let it go that I'd faded Noble. I couldn't let it go. And you were like, just, it's done. Move on. Noble's done.
Well,
look ahead.
You were never really. I went back and listened to the other one. You were never really interested in Noble. I mean, I wasn't. Off, and you went, don't do it. So it wasn't something to dwell on. But yes, not a great start, right? When everyone else has 150.
It wasn't ideal. And I just want to say thank you for being, my compass, my guiding light. You kept my head on straight when I was panicking, when I dropped out to 192nd. You did the best thing you could do. You didn't reply. You left me on red. You went, you know what? He just needs to get through this moment alone.
I'm sure I was doing something.
I think it was after the first game, like after John Noble, and I dropped all the way out. It was pointless worrying about it because the round had just begun.
I would have been asleep. Yeah.
But anyway, welcome to the final episode of the season. This is the grand finale, and thank you so much for tuning in if you've made it this far. Before we get stuck into it, if you dig the content, remember, chug us a follow, 5-star rating over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, like, share, subscribe over on YouTube as well. And obviously you'll be an early bird for the beginning of next season where we kick off. Big show lined up today. We've saved the best until last. We're going over our big list of learnings for season 2026. I think this is our second annual. We did it a little bit earlier last year, but we always like a good learnings episode. So we're going to do that. We're also going to react to your biggest learnings. You shared those with us via Twitter a couple of weeks ago. Great list. We couldn't get to every single one, but we're going to get to as many as we can. We're having our first Giddy Up and Mike the Phony awards. We're handing out awards to the top. We want to just shout out what were the ones that made us laugh the most this season. But first, I think we might have said this on Thursday, but we're saying it again. We thought we would do the final 50 point and Pellies. Big.
Marcus 66% CBAs, 80% time on ground, and yet you only scored 50-point and Pellies.
Ranks and trades.
It would not be
I
our
tried
podcast.
I tried to do it. We don't normally do this on a Monday.
We don't. No.
I just didn't get the timing right. Yeah.
That was good. You had the right idea. Yeah. It would not be our pod if we didn't have a lag.
No,
all right, K-Man, how did your last round of the season go? Where did Sack Lunch end up?
Forced trades. I had 2 of them. So Sheasel and my boy James with his pinky toe. Yeah. And actually good trade-ins. So Max Hall and Jace Burgoyne. So both 130s, which was good. A final score of 2,449, which is okay. It was okay. I'll talk about my Mike the Phonies in a bit. So round rank of 8,048, and I finished up at 1,639th with an uncompleted team. So,
Woo!
no idea how, but woo!
Well, it just goes to show how many people must have uncompleted teams, right? With all the trades. Like,
absolutely.
insanity.
So
Absolute
kinda
insanity.
happy, but glad it's
Well
over.
done. Well done. What did we have? Couple of forced trades for me as well. Who did I trade out? Wow, that's the wrong trades. I traded out Harry Sheasel and Chad Warner to Jace Burgoyne and Joe Richards. I did the double up on the port.
That's
boys.
right.
I was considering
Yes.
I was considering Cozzy Pickett as a bit of a defensive move, and in the end decided that it didn't make a lot of sense. You made a good point of, well, you know, whatever Cozzy Pickett goes, you're just holding whatever rank you're at rather than making a move. Jace Burgoyne, 137, and Joe Richards looked like a terrible pick for
It did, didn't it?
a half. Wow. And then he just turned it on. And I just thought to myself, if you'd just been doing this the whole game, like, this would have been a monster score.
Imagine, he outscored Cozzy in the end, didn't he? By
He
a
did.
couple
So
of
it was
points?
technically the right call
7.
in the end. He
Yeah, it
outscored
was
Cozzy by
the
like 4 points or something. So that was good for a round rank of 6,853, a score of 2460. And that propelled me. Well, it actually dropped. I dropped 2 ranks and finished the season on 58, which that was your second hat, wasn't it? 58th last year?
No, 60.
Or is
I
that
think
56?
60. What's this one?
No, it's 66. That's your first one, 66. I could have sworn you finished last year on 58 as well. We're the 58 boys.
58s.
Well, let's just say it's the 58. That's a good story. So, look, happy. I'm stoked. Got the first hat. Happy with that.
That's amazing. Well done, mate.
This has been
Congratulations.
fantastic.
And
So,
how's our cred?
I know. Look at us. Hey, you want to know how to win a hat? Come to the boys who have 3 between them.
Oh dear! Send us hate mail all the way through to the contest. Yeah.
The ego exploded. All righty. Should we do Giddy Up and Mike the Phony, the final one of the year?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. We got some awards.
Giddy up. Like you didn't call me a phony!
Or do Giddy Up and Mike the Phony, where we use childish puns to summarize our fantasy weeks. I didn't put up a post this week because we wanted to focus on what we felt were our favorite,
the awards,
most laugh-worthy puns of the year. But really quickly came in, who were your Giddy Ups and Mike the Phonies for the final week of fantasy?
Yeah. My Giddy Up goes to Chase Burgoyne. I thought that was an amazing, even though I only got 1 match out of him. How awesome was that? Remember a couple of weeks ago I said he reminds me of a younger Nas?
Yeah.
I got that vibe again on the weekend, but Chase
He
Burgoyne.
moves similarly, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good word, simile.
Do you
My
think
Mike
he'll
the Phony
be-
goes to what?
I was just going to say, do you think he'll be, because Butters has, we've got the news officially.
Yeah,
Butters
it's a
is
fish.
leaving.
Yeah.
Do you think, would you say Jace is a potential shoe-in for a midfield role, like Jason Horne-Francis, Burgoyne, Rosie next year?
Yeah, well, I guess they still have a bit of grunt with Willem Drew. Who knows if some of the other statesmen are going to go around again, but it'll be interesting to see what Adelaide do at trade period, whether they just go for draft picks or whether they might want to bring in someone with a bit more experience in that midfield structure. So that'll be very interesting. But geez, he looks good.
Yeah.
I'd invest, wouldn't you? The boy Burgoyne.
100%. He looks fantastic.
And my Mike the Phony goes to blame Zorko.
Oof. That was gross.
75 points. Wasn't great, was it, when you're wanting to get as many points as possible?
I guess Brisbane just blew Collingwood out of the water, so they just knew it. They had it. he was able to slow down, wasn't he? Because he wasn't really managed, I don't think, too significantly. He was still on the field right to the end, but just slowed down. Didn't need to take any risk.
Yeah.
He's not 100%, is he? Like, he's clearly not fully fit. Still, I'd rather 80% Zork out there than no Zork for our boys. My giddy ups this week. This one's really bad, but I took his VC, maximum Gornification. I don't know what that means.
That was great.
But Max Gorn was outstanding.
What was the name we used to do the Transformers? Anyway.
Maximum Overdrive? No. I don't know. Anyway.
We had a name that we used to go. Anyway.
The Transformers bit. Yeah, I can't remember.
Autobots, roll out.
Roll out.
We had a name.
Autobots, roll out. Yeah, I don't know.
Rechko. Was it Rechko? No, I don't know.
It might have been Rechko. Could have been Rechko. Anyway, that's a bit of an Autobot name. He was awesome. So I was a bit sad because I pulled the VC off of Max Hall at the last minute. It was on there, pulled it off, and then I got really sad. And then Big Max Gorn, the other Max, the better Max, came in and crushed him anyway. And Zach Merritt, awesome, 123, slightly unique option at the back end of the week there. So he was awesome. My Mike the Phony was Tom Wheelbarrow because he just looked like he was pushing a wheelbarrow out there. Do you know what? This is why this episode that we're about to do is really important. Because last year, one of my key learnings was in regards to Matt Kennedy, right? And it was, don't buy these guys when they've been doing it all year and they've already made all their money. Sparrow is the Kennedy of last year. The moment we jumped on, he decided, no, I'm done.
Yep.
I'm out. We're good.
Yep.
Absolutely cooked.
That would have been frustrating. Yeah.
Shocking. Anyway, whatever. Let's get to the listener puns of the year. And I reckon let's save the winner until last. Who are our honorable mentions?
Ooh.
Who are the honorable mentions for Settle down. Keeps going. I think you can click stop. It's exceptionally long.
I didn't know how to stop it.
All right. Who's one of your runners up to the Microphone Award?
Yeah, coming in at number 3 for me was "Will Never Win a Hatcroft." I thought that was very clever. It was that point where a lot of people brought in Ashcroft. And you remember we had those 2 or 3 week period where it wasn't, amazing. And I just thought, "Will never win at Hatcroft." Always stood out for me. So, well done. I really like that one.
I like it. One of my favorites was submitted by Dave, Sam Credit Union. Sam Banks. I think that was the first week trading him in, and he just wasn't getting it done.
That's great.
I thought that was good.
Keep going with your next 2 because I've only got 3.
Okay. All right. Two more honorable mentions, and then we have the same top 2. Grind My Gears, submitted by West Coast Eagles Duffman fan.
Very good.
That's pretty good. And Justin McAhammy, submitted by Aaron W, which was the week your boy JM went down with a hamstring, hoping he's fine. Good. We agree on this next one. Who's your number 2? Yeah,
number 2, which I still think is right up there.
It's on point.
Your car. Cal will key your car. Is that Simon Snouts?
That's submitted by Simon Snouts, an avid listener.
Good. Very, very
well done.
Good.
And the winner. Chernobyl disaster.
The Chernobyl disaster. What a
submitted by AFL Fantasia. Was that not just? I think that might have been the highlight. Giddy up and Microphone week. Like that week was elite. I thought. Fantastic. Alrighty, we are 20 minutes into this bad boy, and we've not started our big list of learnings yet. So I reckon we should do that. Everyone, we wanted to spend today just talking about what are our biggest learnings coming out of season 2026. I reckon probably in the preseason ahead of next year, it might even be worth us checking back on these and seeing how do we feel about some of them. It's a good time capsule for us. We also got you to submit some learnings as well, which we will go through and react to as well. And hopefully we can just make this a bit of a cathartic session where we can go through and take out what were the positives, what were the negatives, and what can we take in to 2027. So, K-Man, I'll hand over to you. We'll take it one at a time. What's your first learning that you want to take into AFL Fantasy next year?
It's getting my starting team right. Like this competition is now so close. It's so close. It's so hard to come back if you have a really rough start. It's been my MO for successful seasons is getting off to a good start and then kicking off strategy and being able to complete teams and do those types of things. And next year, it's even more important if we don't have these early buy rounds. So we've had a couple of years where we have a bit of a cheat code with opening round and early buys. We can hide behind 18, but correct me if I'm wrong, that's gone next year. Is that right?
Yep,
The early
I
season
believe it's
buys?
gone.
So
I believe so.
I can't express enough getting his starting team starting team right. I didn't like having to come from 18,000th heading into the buys and trying to claw my way back. So it's something that I'm going to be extra vigilant with next season.
I think that's a really good segue into two of mine that I'm going to talk about as one. But they're essentially an extension of that point of getting your starting teams right, which was the importance of not starting or trading into players that you don't actually believe in. And the flip side of that, do start and do trade into players that you do believe in. And so coming from the perspective of your starting squad and getting that right, I think we both had names on our starting squads this year who we talked about in the preseason where we didn't actually want them on our team. And we did want other people instead. So neither of us were actually keen on starting Connor Rozee because I think Connor Rozee is a fantastic player. And I thought he'd be there and thereabouts in terms of, a ton average. But I didn't see him as a guy with a ton of value baked in. I thought he was priced sort of at his ceiling. I know that you're just broadly not a big fan of Port Adelaide players and they score in patches and they can be up and down, right? So we talked about that a lot. Another example was we were both keen on Joe Footy. In our backlines, who look to end the year, whatever, but to start the year for a good 4 to 6 weeks, he was the mid-pricer you wanted in your backline. And for both of those players, we ended up starting Connor Rozee because we felt the pressure of the ownership of the rest of the competition. He was so highly owned. Now it's possible it would have come back to bite us had he not gotten injured. The reality is, though, it did come back to bite us because he did get injured and we didn't want him in the first place. And with Footy, we started Windsor in his place, again, who I think was a much more popular pick. But there were still flags that were talked about in the preseason in terms of his scoring profile. Whereas Footy, his name came about because he had that half-back role and it seemed like it was him and Ash were just kind of waxing, Whitfield was kind of taking kick-ins or whatever, and he and Ash were kind of waxing across half back. And so after this year, there have been some other names, I guess, in terms of trading into, we both traded into Shea Bolton. He was not a guy that we really wanted. Brent Daniels, I was never interested in. I traded into him because he was the right price. He was the right price. I was I can get him as a 23rd premium, and everyone was doing it. And then I traded into him, and sure enough, it didn't go super well. Players that Jack Sinclair. I started Jack Sinclair because I believed in him, and he was a great pick. Brad Hill, jumping on him when we saw that role change. Will Ashcroft, obviously he injured his elbow mid-year, but trying to jump on him early. You believed in Jordan De Goey from day one, and as soon as that role crystallized, you were like, I'm doing it, And full transparency, I'm not saying that players I believe in always work out. Absolutely not. So I just want to list off a few players that I did believe in and would have failed had I jumped on. Like, I did believe in Darcy Wilson towards the end of the season, and I wasn't able to trade him in for one reason or another. Thank goodness I didn't. Tom McCarthy, I believed at the beginning of the season could be a good pick. I was in the minority and I was wrong. He was fine, but he didn't offer you any upside in your team throughout the year. Dylan Moore was a player I was looking at through, and Brian Myers in the back end of the year as well. Like, all of these players were players I believed in at some point, and they would have been bad picks. But my point here is, like, I would have been able to live with myself had I done any of those. Whereas, like, players like LDU, Shea Bolton, Brent Daniels, they stuck with me when they didn't work out.
Yeah, I guess what we did do is, before this chat, what was preface that it has been an anomaly of injuries this year. So whatever learnings we have has to take into account that we probably didn't get to execute the strategy we were after when looking at what the season would look like. So a lot of this, I guess, is after the fact. Really good points. And isn't it funny how pre-season we gave some advice on what to do in terms of picking players, pivoting on players, not considering players, and it's still really hard in season to stick to that philosophy.
Yeah,
when there's
totally
so much going on with changes in price, maybe a run of 6 games, you think, hey, LDU, come on, this is the dream and greenness run that you've got. So there's so many things that are thrown at you in a season that just takes your lens away from what you really wanted to consolidate before the season started, and making sure you try and stick fat with a lot of those. I guess a new one I want to bring up that I've taken away from this year was the massive influence of the time on ground threshold, and how that's added a completely new strategy. I'm going to be honest, say I don't like it. I don't like the rule in change this year where you get 50% and then all of a sudden you can have, I don't know. I just don't like the fact. I understand why it was brought in. We don't want to ruin the competition for players and make that thirst for coming back week in, week out as competitive as possible. But I just didn't like it. But what it did do is reinforce the must-have nature of having rookies that you may need to field if required. So players like HHK, Herbert, Fitzgerald have hung around on a needs basis because we had all these injuries, and you're gonna need someone if a player goes down in the first quarter. Callum Mills with 3 points. And I think coaches benefited from having someone that they could rely on for a 70, an 80, a Fitzgerald 90 of all people. So it's just added that extra dimension where having bench health, I think, on each line, especially that back end of the season, is really important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you called this one earlier in the year, I think. I think you were even talking on the pod about was it ahead of the buys, or maybe coming out of the buys? Maybe you were like, oh, it's going to be so important to make sure our benches are properly covered coming out of the buy rounds. And I think that was a lesson that we all kind of learned. And inevitably, so many injuries, like at some stage, we all copped either a donut or someone with 30 points or less covering us on our bench at some stage in the season. And that just isn't going to cut it in future, particularly if you're trying to go for a hat, you're trying to compete. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I've got an interesting one here, because this was a decision that actually worked out and benefited my team, but it was the wrong process that I followed. It was just one of those things where I lucked out. And that is, next year I don't want to fade highly owned underpriced premiums. I think that can be fatal. Now, I want to be really clear. We just said, oh, we didn't want Connor Rozee in our team. And, a lot of people viewed him as an underpriced premium. We didn't. I didn't view him as an underpriced premium. To me, he was fully priced. So the example that I'm going to give is Errol Goulden. This should have been a massive miss for my team. And had Errol not gone down to injury, in week 1, I think it was. I have a feeling this would have been a near fatal miss for my team because everyone would have had Errol Goulden except me. And then all these teams would have gotten in Nick Dacos early when other injuries happened, and all these teams would have gotten in Bailey Smith early when other injuries happened. And all of a sudden, I would have been in a situation where I didn't have probably the players who would have been the top 3 scoring mids for most of that season, right? And so the point I'm making here is like, yes, Errol Goulden got injured. And so it worked out for me because it meant I didn't have a forced trade that week when everyone else did. And so I was able to fix up Darcy Cameron and trade him to LJax, for example. But I can be reflective enough where I look at, well, if he hadn't have gone down, I would have been stuffed, I think. I would have been in a lot of trouble. And so next year, I want to be really, really careful about my structure in my team. And so I've talked about this before where I was really keen on Errol all preseason, like everyone was. But the reason I didn't start him is because it meant I was able, if I downgraded him to an LDU, then I was able to upgrade another mid-pricer or rookie to another underpriced premium. And so I was like, oh, I'd rather have that extra guy. But in hindsight, looking at the up and down nature of, say, Sam Walsh in the first half of the season, looking at LDU and how he faded, no, I'd much rather have the top of the line underpriced premium in someone like an Errol Goulden. So if someone like that appears next preseason, that it just feels like such an obvious pick, I want to not big brain it. And I want to make sure that, no, just select it. Take that security in your team. You don't want to go against 70% of the comp who have picked him from day one.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And if you don't mind, can you actually back it up with another one of yours, which is your 4th dot point down? Because I think that's actually a really good segue into another element before I jump in.
Totally. Yeah, this is an interesting one. And I've seen a few people talk about this. I think it's okay to start overpriced players if you believe they can actually meet or exceed their price. And I know that technically that means they're not overpriced, but I'm talking about like players who are maybe overpriced according to community consensus. So, examples of these sorts of players are Harry Sheezel, Bailey Smith, Nick Dacos. Now, we all started Harry Sheezel because the logic was, well, the value that you're getting is not in the price. It's in how far above all the other forwards he's going to be. And everyone was right. But we faded similar names in the midfield. We all saw what Bailey Smith did last year, and I think that the general thinking was, well, he probably won't do it again, or maybe he'll get injured because he was broadly pretty healthy last year, except for a game or 2. But his role wasn't going to change. The general midfield makeup wasn't changing. What was it in that system that was going to mean Bailey Smith was going to score 10 less points than he did last year on average, or 15 less points on average? Nothing. Nick Dacos, I mean, he just keeps getting it done year in and year out. And yeah, he has a game here and a game there, but broadly speaking, some of these players can just go at that top of the line price. And so you can't start all of them. You absolutely can't start all of them. But I think if there's a couple of players that you think are going to be the top of their line, if broadly speaking, the community is saying they're overpriced, but you look at their team, you look at their situation, you go, I'm not convinced. I reckon they could at least meet that price. Then I just think they're worth starting, because you don't want to have to buy them later if you don't think they're going to get cheaper. You want to just start with them so you don't have to have that headache. And that was the headache I had, was I didn't have any of these guys. Didn't start them, didn't pivot to them because I didn't lose an Errol that allowed me to. And I think I lost a lot of points early in the season because a lot of people suddenly had these guys way earlier than anticipated.
And team structure next year is going to be interesting. As I said, there's no best A team. So I guess a guns and rooks approach was effective this year. Just the nature of being able to pivot players but still only have 18. But having a full complement of 22, it's going to be very interesting to see what structures are effective next year, knowing that we don't have to hide, or players aren't going to be playing. You've got a full complement. You're going to have to get that right. So really, really interesting on those learnings from you, especially with those underpriced premiums and the bigger players of nature. Another one for me, I've kind of jumped order here. Nothing new. This one's nothing new. And you know my philosophy on it. It's getting rookies off field. Even finishing this year with Sharp. Look, Sharp, he outdid himself. Absolutely outdid himself for the final 10 weeks of the year being in my team. But again, he's a rookie and he finished off with a lowish score compared to other forward lines that were complete. So again, I'm going to try and go that extra mile. As long as the player I'm bringing in, I'm going to leave that bit for you because that's similar to what you're going to bring, but this is the next bit that you really want to nail. Always competing that far behind, knowing that teams like yourselves have a full complement of underpriced premiums, and having to combat that with a Fitzgerald on a weekly basis, a Herbert sometimes, a Dylan Sharp, HHK. It was just really challenging and frustrating as a coach to know that I was consistently going to be less points each week. And that compounded coming out of the buys and into about round 20. So it's just something, again, is going to be high on my agenda for next year, as well as getting that balance of rookies to cover in mid-season buys, and also now having rookies that are going to sit as cover for time on ground threshold.
Do you remember early in the year, I think it was like around 3, and I was like, oh, you could trade Sam Walsh and Zach Butters. Do you remember that? And you were like, oh, nah. And I was like, and you were like, how do I put this gently? And, this is such a good point. Like, we're all prone to the odd rage trade or wanting to rage trade. But, and they were my early season rage trades. Sam Walsh wasn't doing what he was expected to do. And I think in hindsight, that was maybe more on Vossi than it was on him. Butters was doing what Port players do and scoring in patches. But yeah, you get rookies off field. Like, don't sacrifice your structure or don't waste a trade. Don't put yourself a week behind if you don't have to. How do you feel about this? Because I agree with you. I actually think this was my biggest learning this year, was this get your rookies off field. And, it's not so much a learning as it is a reminder. But, last year was a year where there were a few rounds. There were probably 3 or 4 rounds throughout the year where I did do sideways trades too early. And because I was worried about those players and they were okay, no one else was sideways trading. And it put me in a position at the end of the season where I was just playing too much catch up and I was unable to get any higher. And this year has really solidified that learning for me. The one caveat I've got, Jesse's caveats,
final time.
Final Jesse's caveats. Tell me what you think of this. Is the only time where I would say, no, I think getting your rookies off is not the right call, is if getting that rookie off means trading into a player that you don't believe in, or that, it's almost like you're forcing the issue. So like, I'll take it back to like Sam Banks, for example, that week. I did not believe Sam Banks was a pick, and so I didn't want to do it in my team. Any other player, like I'm sure there were players throughout the season you had the opportunity to trade into that you just didn't because you're like, I just don't believe in them at this point. Would you agree with that? Like, probably if you've got a Herbert, you'd rather field them over someone you just didn't really want, right?
Yeah, you can't force a player that hasn't been validated by your research, your confidence that they're going to be close to top 6 or top 8 or whatever they are in their line. So you can't force something. You're going to bring in, say, a Tom Atkins and think that that's the guy to get if you want to move on from someone earlier in the year. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
Draft hero Tom Atkins. What's your next one? Not this year. No.
A few more. I started off with 3 and it kept exploding. I have some coaches of concern heading into next year. I was always worried about
Okay.
Brad Scott. I was always worried about Chris Scott. I'm now worried about Kingsley as a coach with some instability. Now, I know he had some injuries, but it's kind of 2 years in a row now where at some point he's gone, Ash, you can play midfield. Whitfield, you can go half forward. And I've just gone, I lack the confidence in a Kingsley than I did in the previous coaching. Leon Cameron, for example. Nixie's done it again. So we had Rochelle was playing midfield. And again, it's his MO. He'll have a plan to start the year. And then after 8 weeks, he'll go, you know what? We need to tighten this up. I'm going to change that. So it's something I'm wary about. Clarkson's been the same this year with his integration of experienced players and his younger players, where over a 4-week stretch, he's decided we're going to quickly change that up. And Ross Lyon with rookies in particular. I just think these names have added. Well, Ross Lyon, you're picking a rookie St Kilda player now, knowing that it might be 1 or 2 weeks and that's it, they're out. So there's just a bigger list now, I think, of the nature of the way the game's changed, whether that's through rule changes, injuries, personnel. But it just seems to be a trend where more and more coaches are changing game style and personnel rapidly, which doesn't give us confidence when we're trying to pick consistency in some of these players.
Yeah, that's Ross Lyon and his rookies just really does my head in, doesn't he? I think back to I can't remember what week it was, but I remember we were all like, I want Jack Eisen and Charlie Banfield this week. 2 weeks later, Jack Eisen was gone and Banfield played maybe 3 more games and he was done, never back in again. And so it's such a good point, especially like you look at Kingsley next year. GWS is going to be a really interesting team to watch because I think they're losing like Toby Green's leaving. It looks like Jesse Hogan is leaving. I feel like there was another player as well. Jake Stringer is leaving. So you just wonder what their structure is going to look like. You wonder if some players are going to be, the magnets are going to be thrown around a little bit, obviously pending what happens during free agency and the trade period. But that's a good one. And you've always been really switched on in terms of looking at what coaches are doing. So I'm inclined to listen to that one. Can you go straight on to your next one? Because I find that one really interesting.
Okay. I'm going to read some names out to you, and I want you to tell me, even though you've got the run sheet right in front of you, if you hadn't read the run sheet, what can you tell me about these players?
Yeah.
Ed Richards, Will Ashcroft, Sparrow, Bailey Smith, and Goulden.
Is it that they are the first banana and tag targets in their teams?
Incorrect. They're the opposite. They are your second banana players that aren't tag targets. And the taggers were back this year. Not only your typical players, but a team might roll a full hard tag and a shutdown player. They're looking at tagging halfback players. And I think that's going to continue. And I think next year I'm going to start looking for these players within a structure that I don't think will get a tag. Goulden's not getting a tag because you had Heaney to deal with when he's fully fit. Bailey Smith never gets a tag, whether it's because of his disposal efficiency or just his running capability that no one can stay with him. But you're looking at Holmes, you're looking at other areas. Sparrow, what a season he had after you've got Cozzy getting shut down, Jack Steele doing what he's doing, Ashcroft, you got Neil, Dunkley, and Ed Richards, you've got the Bont doing those type of things. So it's just something I'm going to dabble with next year and looking for these second players rather than just going straight for the top. Seeing what that can do.
I love this one, and I'm going to follow suit and do the exact same thing because I think it will actually be a really interesting process next preseason of like doing up a team of kind of, second bananas versus a team of those traditional guys and going, hey, which one do I actually prefer the look of? On Wash, Brisbane's midfield is going to be fascinating next year because Lachie Neale's all but gone. Zach Bailey, who do we know yet? I mean, it's looking pretty unlikely that he stays if he's not signed. So let's assume Neil and Bailey gone. Is it Hugh McCluggage or is it Will Ashcroft becomes the number one banana in the Brisbane midfield next year? I know this is not so much about your point because, you would just target whoever was the second banana, but just as out of curiosity, like, do you think he takes up Neil's mantle next year? Like, is he the logical guy, or do you think it's still Hugh McCluggage's midfield?
No, I think Wash has taken that over. I mean, it's very hard when McCluggage's been injured all year. All year he's been injured, but I think Ashcroft's hands, his hands are so quick. It just probably gives McCluggage the opportunity to be a bit more outside, a la Sam Walsh, get the run and carry going. Whereas Ashcroft's hands, I think, would be next in line after Neil in terms of.
I think I agree, and I have a feeling Hugh McCluggage is going to be in a lot of starting squads next year. He might be midfield gimme pick, right? Like, I think we'll all just have him because it's going to be so cheap. It's going to be wild.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Another one of mine. I thought my season was coming undone during the buys, which in hindsight was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I think I had like 4 or 5 weeks of slides in a row. Probably not 5, maybe 3 or 4 weeks of slides in a row, and I panicked. I never slid out past like 15, 1600 or whatever. So it was fine. But in the moment, after a few slides, I was like, oh gosh, what have I done? But in hindsight, I actually think this is weird, but I have a feeling those slides were actually an indication of my team's health in a way, because I'd prioritized this year. What I'd done differently is I'd really prioritized not only value and cash gen, but I'd prioritized maintaining a particular structure in my team throughout the early part of that season. I didn't trade into Nick Dacos or Bailey Smith super early because there were times where I probably could have afforded them, but had I bought them, I wouldn't have been able to buy into the rookie that I really wanted. I would have had to get some 230K nobody who you wouldn't know if they were named the next week kind of thing. And so I think what was happening was all of those teams, like you mentioned earlier, all those teams that had gone guns and rooks in the by the midpoint of the season, their best 18 scores were just off the charts because they were really capitalizing on having a bunch of these absolute jets in their team and probably getting, if they had Willem Dersma and they were getting 80 pluses from Willem Dersma, Jagger Smith had started scoring really, really, really well. They had Milan Murdoch kind of counting for them, where my team might have had less rookies on field, but I had, like, say, an LDU, maybe an underperforming Sam Walsh, etc. But what became really apparent was as soon as the buys were over, that's when I really started to climb up the ranks. And I think that was probably those teams who still had more rookies on field. Once it was best 22, they started to become quite exposed. And so that just really solidified for me the importance of prioritizing structure and being really, really disciplined in that early part of the season, where I've not been that in the past. And I was proud this season that I was able to do that. And yeah, there might have been a couple trades here and there that I could have made better, but broadly speaking, those decisions were always about maintaining that structure. So I think that's something I'm going to take into next season and again, try and be really disciplined about, is not sacrificing structure or team stability for, the sugar hit of, someone who I didn't start and is at the top of their line.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. And as you said, after you came out of buys, you were able just to accelerate while teams were still trying to, play catch up with the injuries this year and perhaps being a bit too sideways earlier. I've got a couple more, if that's okay. I know we're rattling.
Go for it.
No, that's all right. We've done this pod now. This is our second year. You probably know my style. You know my way of coaching in fantasy. Mm-hmm. And perhaps at the start of the year, I deviated from that slightly. And this is probably the thing that I'm most upset with this year is I probably use data to dictate my trade rather than validate my eye. So I watch so much footy, man. Like I watch so much footy that I know how teams structure up at midfield, at stoppage. I know which midfielder is the defensive outlet, which one's the out, who's going to run wide, and those type of things. And I probably didn't use that to my advantage early on. And the comparisons are, for example, later in the year, I got back to what I know, and I was able to isolate, your Rail to finish, Lockie Neal, Ed Richards. And earlier in the year, I was looking and selected players like Oliver, Callahan, Butters. I didn't pick Anderson, even though all the data said, hey, look at this guy. And I felt I lost my way early, and I need to rely more on, I know how these guys accumulate points. I know their thirst. I know their work. I know their follow-up work. And I guess I moved away from that. It was too data-driven earlier in the season. And I just got to get back to being, applying my method and backing that method. And I did get some confidence and regain confidence through the second part of the year because it stands up. And I just need to do that for a full complement season.
Two responses to that. One is, I think that's one of our strengths. And this isn't to toot our own horn, but I think in our pod, like traditionally, I have been the one who brings some data sets to the pod and be like, hey, look at, this guy did this, this, and this, and this. And you have been the one to go, okay, yeah, that's interesting. But remember these things. Remember these eye test things. Remember these gut feel things. Remember this is and I think that kind of balances things out nicely. Often I can often get quite excited. I can get overexcited, over bullish based on numbers on a page. And oftentimes you're right to kind of go, yeah, it's an interesting point. But remember, that's just the data. That's just one side of the coin. The bigger point is, I've said this multiple times this year, you could be a footy analyst on telly. I'm telling you, they say Kingy is like the number one analyst in football. Like, I'm not joking. I do like you say enough things each year that are really finely tuned, that are really astute. And I'm like, that is a very good point. I haven't heard that elsewhere. So, I
appreciate it.
Hats off to you, man. Like, your football, and we should all trust your gut. really. So well done on getting your confidence back in the back end of the year. No, I think that's, and that list of names like Neil, Rao, Richards versus Oliver, Callahan, etc. Like it's a stark contrast between those sets of names, isn't it? And what they were able to do at the back end of the year. My last one is that taking risks is non-negotiable at some point in the season. Now, I think you've got to time your risks that you take, obviously, and it can't be a risk without clear support, evidentiary support. Like you can't just say, well, this guy's okay. Like last year, Sam Taylor, scores that 130 or whatever he scored, and then everyone jumped on him or whatever. Like we probably know better, but Lockie Ash last year had that kind of spike game, and he was in that half back role, and I was a naysayer. But I hadn't really watched it closely enough. I didn't see the role. I just sort of, but people who were astute went, no, this is a role change. He had that one down game in round one. And then for the rest of the season, he was like a top 3 defender. People who took that risk and went, no, this is a role, were right. Because, at that early point of the season, I think you can afford to make a couple of those mistakes. Because you've got a couple of weeks, that first few weeks, that is your fix-up window. And so if you get it wrong, you fix it up, you move on, it'll probably all come out in the wash. This season, and I didn't jump on Ash that season. Did you jump on Ash early that season or no?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but this season, you did. So it paid off, This season, so, okay, neither of us traded into Wilkie early, but those coaches I think we all saw Wilkie ticking over. And many of us oh yeah, that looks great, but he's not a guy, so you move on. And he just kept getting it done. Bradley Hill this was my actually this Zach Bailey was my first big risk, and again it was a player that I believed in, and so I jumped on him 39 the week I traded him in. I thought I'd made a horrendous mistake.
Right. That's all right.
It was horrific, and I still remember. Okay, I haven't done this publicly, and I won't, but there was someone, I can't remember who they were, someone on Twitter when I said I was trading in Zach Bailey publicly shamed me, and they were like, note this is a terrible trade-in. It's going to be, he's going to score 40 points. That week, sure enough, he scores 39 points, and this guy retweets me and says, told ya. I'm just saying everyone had him in their team at the end of the year. So Zach Bailey, Brad Hill, Max Hall, I don't count as a risk that I took. I think if you traded into him 3 weeks prior to that, you smashed it. These are players. Jarman Impey, I got on too late, but some people who got on in 3 weeks before that or 2 weeks before that and got those couple of 150 games out of him, whatever it was. These are those names you need to be willing to take the risk on at various points throughout the season. And I've just learned that if you don't do that, then you can't get ahead. Archie Roberts, I was lucky that I already owned him, but people who jumped on him immediately after that first 160, they were fine. People who waited, they forced him in later once he was over $1 million. Like it's pain. So, I think that's something next year is just, you got to take risks at some point. Just make sure that you've got evidence to support it. CBA percentages, kick-ins, handball receives, whatever. But take some risks.
I love it. Yeah, he had some key ones. You started with the Jackson. Well, you brought him in early. Jackson, he went on the tear. Archie Roberts early, he went on the tear. Bradley Hill, when you thought, here we go. So they are hat-defining decisions. They absolutely are the ones that get you to that upper echelon while everyone's trying to play catch up. You're doing the next move. Really good trading this year. It was excellent.
Thank you.
Look, I've got a couple more. Some are a bit silly. I don't think we have time, but one is obviously this year was a bit of an anomaly with injuries, or is it? Is this the new? Is this the new? And actually, a shout out to Mitch from Ball Boys, who probably is going to sum it up better than I am. But the new rule changes, the workloads on players, and especially our premium players. Unless we start having more of these players during training, sit them out, train away from the group, and do those type of things. Could this be the new, where injuries now are just an accepted part of the game? I don't know. Which way are you leaning? Was it just one of those one-off years, or is this the demands now of AFL footy? More games, less preseason, all those things.
Well, I think people were talking about that preseason, weren't they? Like, people were thinking you want the game to be faster, injuries are going to potentially happen. I suspect the answer is actually somewhere in the middle. I think, we will see a comparable amount of injuries as long as the game is continuing to get faster. It's probably an outlier in terms of the volume of AFL fantasy relevant premiums and players who get injured. Like, to be fair, I think unless that happens 2 seasons in a row, you probably can't say that that's going to be the norm. But I definitely think the way the AFL wants the game to be played is obviously much harder on these guys' bodies. The seasons are longer; they're more grueling. The final series are now longer as well, especially if you're in that wild card round and you just got to keep playing. So, I think it's concerning. I wonder if there's a potential, and clubs would be looking at this stuff too, and they'd be looking at all of the injuries to these elite level players and going, well, we can't. This is not sustainable. We can't do that. So, number one, I would think State of Origin is already maybe in a bit of disarray, because, like, if I'm a coach, I don't want my players playing in State of Origin and risking that already. And second thing I'd say is, do we see a little bit more management throughout the season? And I'm thinking management akin to what Frio's been doing in the latter part of season 2026. Like, a lot of their, a lot of their guys aren't playing more than 70 to 75% TOG throughout a good portion of this season. Luke Jackson, Caleb Sarong, Andy Brayshaw. These guys were managed at around 70 to 75% TOG, I think, for the back half of the season. So I wonder if we see more teams doing that with their really, really quality players just to make sure they can get through the season. Really quickly, we've got a list of listener learnings as well. Where obviously this pod's gone a little bit long, but that's okay. It's the final one. We won't go into as much depth on these, but there are some really good learnings in here. So we just want to shout out to our listeners for continuing to help us produce content and submit ideas to us. Guns and Moses says, I was in way too much of a rush to get rookies off and complete my side. I passed on the higher priced guys who were putting up scores thinking I'd miss them and looked for the next guy who was cheaper instead. Ended up with a complete team of mid-scoring mid-prices. I feel like this one's a double-edged sword where you don't, I would argue that you don't want to get those higher priced guys if that sacrifices the rookie that you really want to get on the other side, or if it impacts your ability to structure up your squad properly. But you're absolutely right. Like, you want to get that alternative player right, because if you bring in the wrong guy, if you bring in an LDU mid-season thinking he's got a green run and then he just can't get it done, that can be season defining in the negative. Hey,
it can be, and I'm desperate to see the ranking. Guns and Moses, I want to see where the ranking is. Just to see what impact that had. But yeah, we talked about it earlier. We can't really bring in guys just because they're there, and you can and you can move on a rookie if it's someone who's going to lack the consistency, or there's been a role change or a change in structure, setup, and consistency. So it is a fine line, and it is certainly something to take into next year.
Dr. Spence has a couple here, and one of these is really good. Number one, be more ruthless, jumping off players when scoring halts instead of hoping their form comes back. I really like this one. Obviously, you don't want to be too ruthless, a la me saying it's time to trade Sam Walsh after 2 weeks.
No, but you did the Darcy Cameron shift. You saw it and you went, no, I'm not having it.
Yeah, that's
Bring
true.
in Luke Jackson, please. Yep.
Christian Petrarca, if you just bit the bullet and you just moved him on, after say 2 or 3 of those games, then you were absolutely ahead of the pack. And the second one was hold rookies longer than you think you should, and don't be so impatient to upgrade them. How do you feel about this one? Because we are both in favor of getting our rookies off field. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it just depends what you're using them for and what phase of the season you're in. Holding rookies through mid-season buys I thought was really important this year. And we also had a year where the rookies did well. They did really well. They made cash. They scored. We didn't have to necessarily jump off them. And then again, we've talked about the end of the season with time on ground threshold. You're going to need to keep some. I guess it goes back to next year. What's the quality of rookies we're going to get? Are they going to be starting? Are they going to be consistent? Are they going to score as well as the crop we had this year? But I think understanding that ultimately the first part, we need them to make money. Then we need them to hold slots as we shift our team around through buy structures. And we're going to need to perhaps have some just on our benches, just in case. So I guess it comes down to purpose of what you're strategically looking these rookies for. I still had red dots on every line as we finished the season, my defensive line, midfield, forward line, knowing that I could have a loop, and also using that cash. So it's just getting that balance right about what the role is for that rookie at that period of season, and just making sure you have that access to these players.
Dave says, don't start players hoping they'll get a role. Only start them if they have the role. Speculative pick chasing can be a killer. I'm so on board with this. Wow. Yep. You don't want to be stuck chasing that guy who could be something great. Maybe he's a boat. It could be a boat. Or you could just buy the boat.
Buy the boat.
Mystery box. Yeah. Tia says, don't pick track.
Man.
Also, make sure I have decent bench cover going into the point of the season. Yep, totally agree. Yeah. Suts, fade the forward line for as
Suts!
long as possible in a season. The gap between rooks and mid prices and the bottom of the top 6 guys isn't as big as mids, backs, and rucks. Yeah.
Great
So
point.
this is an interesting one. It's a great point. And I think I replied to Suts in the comments and said, yeah, that was my learning last year. And then I didn't listen to myself and I bought Christian Petrarca at the top of his line and stuff. The only thing I'd say is interesting. At the end of this year, I feel like this was true right up until
They're
like
everywhere.
round 18. And then, these guys are just everywhere and you don't know which one you can pick. But man, Rankin looks like the best player in the competition at the moment. He's absolutely insane. But broadly, I agree. And I think next year, outside of, say, like if an Errol Goulden gets forward status, you're picking him no matter what. It's kind of like the Sheasler this year. But outside of that kind of situation, I just like value in the forward line, pure and simple. Packs, go the next guy. When you miss the window to trade someone in at a reasonable price, pick the guy everyone will want next. I missed Dawson, Nass, and Roberts, but was happy with Rao, Ashcroft, and Dale. Also value first until your team is set. This must be one of the hardest ones to enact, right? Like you kind of, it's easy to understand intellectually, but when you're actually confronted with, when every pod says he's a must-have, and you're actually confronted with the situation of fading an Archie Roberts when he seems to be scoring 150 every week, do you have the strength to actually do this?
I didn't. I couldn't sit there and see him get 130s just week after week after week after week. He was expensive. I brought him in. He got injured. It's having that discipline. It's a great point, Pax, where at some stage these players can come down, and it's looking for that next person and getting ahead of the comp to do so. Really good lesson.
Sandra has a few. Start rookies with job security first.
Yep.
Start 3 to 5 guns with uninterrupted preseasons and nice early fixtures. Resist being aggressive. Yeah, I like it too. Resist being aggressive with trading out premiums who are out but not injured if you deem them top of their line. So, for example, is Bailey Smith in rounds 15 to 16. I'd say this one is very team dependent and structure dependent. So, because I was aggressive with trading out both Bailey Smith and Lockie Whitfield when Bailey Smith was out during the buys, Lockie Whitfield was injured. And I credit those moves as being integral to my top 100 finish. Because trading out Smith is what allowed me to get Jordan DeGoey in my team when he went on that run of like 117, 92, 105, whatever it was. And trading out Lockie Whitfield, I can't remember what the trade was, but it allowed me to get in another premium that, again, he scored that following week when everyone else got, a 70 odd. So I agree, but I think it's dependent on team. I think it's dependent on where you're sitting, what your rank is, and that kind of thing. And I think there's always times to be aggressive and always times to not be aggressive too. You just got to time it right, hey?
Yep.
Never again means never again. And the ruck, this is an interesting one. Ruck fixture is highly important and set and forget is a thing of the past. How do you feel about that idea that set and forget is done in the ruck line?
I don't know about that. I mean, he got Max Scorn average 110, right? He's averaged 110 for the year. Jackson 102, Grundy 101, and then there's a drop. There's a significant drop. I'd happily start Max again next year. Don't know how much he is. Jackson 955K. So Max Gorn 104 million. I don't know. I think I might want to lock him in because I don't see an up-and-comer coming through. English maybe with a uninterrupted preseason, but I must have been a bit off the English train now with his injuries. I don't see a new ruck coming forward. Whether Rowan Marshall does shift club and become a solo ruck again, it would have to be those types of new developments with those players to change my mind on that.
For any NFL fans out there, Max Gawn is like the Derrick Henry of the AFL. So Derrick Henry is a running back in the NFL, and Derrick Henry's big thing is that he is a man mountain. He's just so much bigger than everyone else. And early in his career, he struggled until his coaching staff said to him, dude, you're like 5 times bigger than everyone else on the field. Just like bowl him over. Just run at him. You'll be fine. No one can tackle you. And Derrick Henry went, okay, bet. And he was like the best running back in the league for the next. However, the man is still going. He's like mid-30s and he's still going. And every year there's debate about, well, is this the year Derrick Henry's going to fall off? You know, the cliff's got to come. This is Max Gawn. Every year, well, the cliff's got to come. You don't want to be left holding the bag. And every year, Max Gawn is Max Gawn, and he averages 107 to 115. And you just go, I feel silly for not picking him if you didn't pick him. So, yeah, Max Gawn. Goat. Matt, if a 37-year-old with a history of soft tissue injuries promises he's changed, don't listen to him. He'll just break your heart. That's good. Past performances are no guarantee of future performance. Yeah, agreed. And high point per minute. Yeah. High point per minute impact guys like Caldwell aren't good for my heart. This is the one I really like. Trust my gut.
Trust your guts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trust your gut. Trust your gut or drop your guts.
Yeah.
Last. Last two. The Scanner Man. Okay, this one's good. This one's funny. Listen to less podcasts. They make you second guess your opinions, and just pay up for expensive players, even if they seem over the top. Okay, so we run a podcast. I agree with the sentiment of this.
Yep.
Don't listen to less like all content creators out there. Love all of you to bits.
Yep.
This community is so awesome. My interpretation of this is, and this is something I need to get better at next year, is not so much listen to less podcasts, is listen to less opinions. Back in your own opinion, and then allow other opinions to reinforce or challenge yours, but don't allow them to replace it. So if you go in thinking, I want to trade in this guy, and no one else mentions them, that's not a reason to pivot necessarily. It's a reason for you to go back, look at your reasoning, look at your data, look at your thinking, whatever it is, and go, does this still hold up for me? Or is it time to pivot? And I think that links to Matt's trust your gut. Like, trust your gut. You know, don't let other opinions dictate your moves. Don't necessarily listen to less, but don't let them dictate what you do, because that's how you regret things that you do or don't do. Yeah.
Yeah, I fell into a trap of that 3 weeks ago. I had my VC and C locked in all week. And then I listened to someone rattle off some captain choices, and I went, oh, I don't know about that one, but they were pretty, across the number of podcasts was heavily backed. So I went that player, and sure enough, the VC I'd wanted during the week cut sick. And it was just one of those where, yep, listen to it, but I've got to stick to what I know, your method, your research, and don't drop your guts.
And don't drop your guts. And lucky last, Fossil Oz says cover, and more cover, which I think we couldn't agree more with. Mate.
Dude! What a year!
It's the end of season 2.
What do we do now? Man alive.
We live. We talk to our wives.
Yeah. It's sun outside. We can. There's a Monday afternoon now. Oh, Friday night.
Look at that.
Thursday night.
Incredible.
Woo!
Wow. Before we do our outro, I think I'd like to offer just a few thank yous, I reckon. Number one, thank you to all the listeners out there. We have our show, just for the benefit of all the people who listen regularly. We've essentially quadrupled in size this year.
Oh, wow.
Compared to last year. So We've got over double the amount of followers on Spotify, as well as picking up plenty of subscribers on YouTube. But we have tripled the amount of all-time plays and downloads of last year. So last year, we've tripled. So last year we had 10,000 streams and downloads, and at the end, as of today, we have 43,061 all-time streams and downloads.
We're doing it.
So that's amazing. So thank you so much for your support. We are still a small, humble show, but with your support, we are mighty, and we get to keep talking about football every week. So thank you so much for your support. And I reckon I'd like to thank those other content creators that have supported us and come on our show. And
big thank you.
And helped us out, So Bales and Tom over at the Fantasy Fanatics. Taser, we tried to link up with early in the season, and we just couldn't get our schedules to align. Thank you so much to all of you guys. Of course,
Vams
Matt
and
over
Louis.
at the Draft Bible.
Holmesy.
Vams, Louis, Holmesy. We got Holmesy on the pod this season. So it's been a big, massive year. Thank you so much to everyone who has
We got a new
us.
sponsor. Farmer wants some slice. We appreciate everything. We appreciate everything.
Farmers wants a
Farmer wants
slice.
Channel 7.
Channel 7. Any other reality TV? Any other reality TV sponsors? Come on down.
Yeah.
Love to have you on the show.
Love to have you on the show.
Well, that's it. I think we're done, everyone. You can follow K-Man on Twitter at K-Man_TC Fantasy. You can follow me on Twitter at Contest Fantasy as we go into hibernation for a few months' time. I believe we'll be back around Christmas time to restart the pod.
So wish list.
We're looking forward to it. I think so. That'll be packed.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for the season. Well done.
See you later.
Woo! Port Adelaide is still disappointing, just in general. And one of my other learnings is just getting guys' names right. I think it's important for next year. I'm still going to call him James. But,
James is here to stay. James Horne-Francis is Brett Daniels.
Yeah. It's saying anomaly is really difficult. I'm going to get words wrong, but I've learned that.
A monomonoly. I think this is the reality of having a podcast, isn't it? What did I say in our last episode? I said that Joe Richards tagged Jason Horne-Francis at Stoppage.
Did you actually?
I did. No, it was prior to that, and I was talking about Joe Richards, and and I absolutely said that he tagged his teammate. What I was thinking about, I think we'd come off a conversation about JHF or something, and I was thinking about Cozzy because I've been watching that matchup really closely. He'd been tagging Cozzy for the first half at Stoppage, and I just said Jason Horne-Francis and kept saying it. It was really funny. Anyway, good times.
My name is Jeff.